for Yahoo Sports and enjoyed little Bubba Twos with us at the Manning Passing Academy. Pete Thamel joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Pete, how are you this morning?
Guys, I'm great. I'm still full from my trip to Thibodeau, I can tell you that. I don't think I've eaten since. That was a great trip and a cool little town, and can't beat Nickel State, right?
Did you have to get a cleansing of your arteries like we did, Pete?
Yeah, they actually have a defibrillator there, don't they? Just to give you a little shock after dinner.
I know it shocks your system, but our arteries are permanently clogged, but we just fight through it, because that's how we eat every day.
Your grinders.
Not pork grinders, just grinders, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, Pete, look, we wanted to ask you, I know you're coming from Big Ten Media Days, right?
Literally in an Uber to the airport.
Nice, okay. Well, we want to switch gears real quick and ask you a little bit about some of the news in the SEC, if that's okay.
Sure.
Obviously, the Hugh Freeze story is a dominant story in the SEC West. And you had a piece the other day about, which I found very compelling, that you don't think he's going to have trouble, or at least the college football industry doesn't think he's going to have trouble landing another job. Why is that?
Well, it's interesting. And the caveat here is, if there is a drip of more scandal, he will have trouble. All right, but if there's not, look, man. I mean, Bobby Petrino got a job, as you would know, Jeff, being a Louisville native, in 30 seconds after. And I mean, let's review. Bobby Petrino cheated on his wife, hired his mistress, lied to his bosses about it. Not to mention the optics of him showing up at the press conference in the neck brace with his face bruised. And he was hired 8 months later. Mike Price had the old drunken night that got him rolled out of Alabama. He was at UTEP a few months later. I mean, college sports is just a zero-sum, bottom-line, must-win game. And you have to reach, I would think, Art Briles levels of, legal issues in order to, and Briles doesn't have them specifically for himself, but his program created plenty of them, in order to be ostracized. It is a very forgiving world in college sports if you win.
What about Les Miles as a fit at Ole Miss? Do you think is there any traction to that, or is that just pure speculation? I
mean, actual traction on July whatever, with the Freeze body still warm, is just kind of conjuncture at this point. Generally speaking, Les Miles wants to get back into coaching. I mean, and he wants to coach at a Power 5 job, and he wants to coach at a place where he could theoretically compete for championships again. I actually don't think, personally, it would be a bad fit. This is where Ole Miss is right now, in my opinion, Jeff. You have to do one of two things. You have to have your next coach. Maybe they keep Matt Luke for a couple of years until the NCAA kicks him in the face, and then they move on. Or do you hire a stopgap guy with the hopes he maybe cashes? You hire an Uber recruiter who maybe brings in some good players and sets up the next guy. If they were going to hire a new coach today, that coach should be set up to fail. And if they hire a new coach in December, he'll likely be set up to fail because nobody really knows the severity of the NCAA sanctions, other than that they're going to be severe. So I don't think Les Miles is that bad of a fit, if you really think about it, Jeff, because he's an experienced guy. He knows the league. He can sort of come in and calm the waters. He can obviously recruit and maybe get you back to a place where you can begin thinking about winning in a few years. I mean, I don't know. I don't think Les Miles, I think he's, 61, something like that?
Right.
I think he's got 10 more years left in him. But if he does 3 or 4 there, maybe he pulls things together and can stay a little longer. If not, he'd be a trusted base. Do I think it'll happen? No, but it makes a lot more sense than some other names that have been thrown out there.
Pete Thamel, national college football writer for Yahoo Sports, join us right here on Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280 and on NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app as well. Pete, of course, Les Miles, larger-than-life caricature, and now, as we know, LSU has their own new caricature with Ed Orgeron, and I'm sure you've dealt with him for many years. and he comes into this LSU program, and they're looking for kind of a jolt in the arm.
United.
What do you feel like he has to do to bring this program to the level it was, say, national championship years a bunch of years ago?
Well, I've known Ed Orgeron since I was in college, and he was a defensive line coach at Syracuse. Been around him a long time. Have a lot of respect for him. I just think in a lot of ways he's set up to fail right now, because the standard he has to live up to is you need to beat Nick Saban, and you need to do better than Les Miles. And from a pure data standpoint, it's hard to be better than Les Miles when you look at his winning percentage and his SEC winning percentage and what he actually did. And I just don't think Ed Orgeron is going to build a program that can topple Nick Saban. So it is a very hard job, and it'll be interesting to see how Ed Orgeron has proven this much as head coach. He is the perfect adrenaline jolt to be an interim. He's the perfect guy to come in at USC and give the linemen cookies and, right the ship and give energy. He was the perfect guy at the end of last year to do that. Can he day-to-day manage a program? Can he day-to-day run can he be the CEO and run all the things you have to run to do that? I am skeptical. I am skeptical of that right now, looking at A, his track record, and B, the caliber of teams and schools he needs to beat. Ole Miss bottoming out helps Ed Orgeron, because that's just one less thorny game in the West, which is treacherous that you have to deal with. But it is going to be a hard road for Ed Orgeron at LSU.
Pete, you've had some really difficult assignments lately out in Thousand Oaks, California, at this quarterback camp, and I wanted to ask you about that. You had an interesting piece on this about how quarterbacks coming from college are struggling to transition to the NFL, and you talked to a lot of different coaches about that, and I'm curious, what was your overriding takeaway from that? Is it the spread game is so dominant that these quarterbacks aren't under center enough, or what basically is causing this struggle?
Yeah, it's a confluence of factors, Jeff, that have got us to this point. There's no sort of magic bullet or one singular reason. It's sort of a complicated calculus when you really dial in and look at the disparate nature of the college game and the NFL game, and I think the evaluation of quarterbacks right now in college. I mean, the first 5 quarterbacks picked in the draft last year were spread quarterbacks, and I think that's one of the hardest equations in sports right now. I think that's one of the most difficult things for coaches and evaluators to determine, because that position is so important. And I mean, Kyle Shanahan was pretty blunt about it. He was like, "We don't even see these guys play essentially the same position." Like that's how different the NFL looks at what spread teams are doing in college. I should say some spread teams are doing in college. So, my takeaway was this, and it was a recruiting one. It was very interesting for me to sit down and talk to a dozen or so of these quarterbacks who are going to be highly recruited guys. How many of them prioritized playing in a pro-style system, which would help a program like LSU, and it would help a program like Stanford and Alabama, obviously. So that was one of my big takeaways, was that there was an awareness at the high school level and at the recruiting level amongst the higher-end guys who want to do something that looks like they do on Sundays while they're in college.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I could see where this past year, I know the Saints were very high on Patrick Mahomes, as were a lot of NFL teams. But Sean Payton has talked about, if you take a guy like that, you better be prepared to have a steep learning curve. And the Saints looked at him as a developmental prospect down the road because of that. It's somebody that's gonna have trouble coming in and being your starting quarterback in year one in the NFL because of this transition that you talk about.
Yeah. The best nugget I got from that was from Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers head coach, who told me that the free agent quarterback they signed, who they really like, Nick Mullins out of Southern Miss, he started for 4 years there, had a prolific career in Hattiesburg. He learned how to take a snap from under center and drop back by watching YouTube after he graduated from college.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's crazy.
Completely amazing. Completely amazing.
Well, Pete, man, we appreciate you. We know you're hurtling toward the airport. Where are you at, in Chicago right now?
Yeah, I've actually already hurdled. I'm at O'Hare right now.
Oh, nice. I'm sure there's no one there. It's probably empty,
No, it's
right?
quiet. Yeah, no. Never any traffic getting out here. It's always smooth. So.
Exactly. Pete Thamel, national college football writer for Yahoo Sports. You can follow him on Twitter at Pete Thamel and check out his amazing work. Look, he's been covering college football for I don't even know, 20 years, I feel like.
And I think Pete single-handedly has kept the hot yoga industry in business here in New Orleans. Single-handedly keeping these small businesses afloat.
What is hot yoga? You go out and you just stand out in the corner and drink and sweat? That sounds like hot yoga to me here.
There's a great Bikram studio over on Julia. It's my favorite spot when I'm in New Orleans after I go out with Duncan, and he keeps saying Snake and Jake's until 6 a.m.
Snake and Jake's. I can't believe it took 8 days to get a Snake and Jake's reference on this show. I figured it would be like day 2, but you did it, Pete.
Time to let Pete go, I think.
There
Time to move on.
I would have lost the over-under on the Snake and Jake reference for sure.
Exactly. With us hooligans, exactly. Pete, great talk. We'll definitely catch up with you down the line. Appreciate your time.
Hey, good luck to you guys, man. I'm excited for you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Pete.
it. Yeah, that's Pete Thamel, national college football writer for Yahoo Sports. Look, Pete's worked at the biggest of the big publications in America, New York Times, Sports Illustrated, and now just joining our friend Pat Forty over at Yahoo. Awesome college football.
Boy,
coverage.
what a dynamic duo they've got
kidding.
on college sports with those two guys. They are wired in at all levels. And if you read Pete's stuff, I mean, he's so wired in all the way down to the high school level, and he was here visiting the Manning Passing Academy not too long ago, as was Pat Forty, realizing just what a unique situation that is to be able to talk to all these great college quarterbacks. So he's got great perspective on the college game.
So you tease me whenever someone comes on and starts mentioning things in my life. So Pete drops a Snake and Jake's reference, Louisville reference. That was your plant. That was your interview plant.
I just, last time we were at Snake and Jake's, I woke up the next morning and found a receipt for like 8 Jägermeister shots that we took at like 3 a.m. Always a good decision, right?
I don't want to mention the last time I ended up at Snake and Jake's. I was with you, of course, and I did not know how to use Uber.
Oh, my gosh.
Shows you how tech savvy I am. I figured it out, but I panicked in the middle of the street because I did not know how to use Uber.
You need an Uber for Snake and Jake's.
Oh, I eventually got it, for sure. But want to thank Pete Thamel for jumping right here on Dunc and Holder. Coming up next, we will have some Saints chatter. Obviously, some big news, not surprising news out of Saints camp. Probably as predictable as the sun comes up. It rains in New Orleans, as hot as hell as New Orleans. Donnell Ellerby's injured, and now he's gone. So we'll talk about that coming up next. Of course, phone number to get involved, 504-260-1280. You could jump on our YouTube Live comment section. We had some questions on there yesterday, and we addressed them. And we also addressed our YouTube Live issues from yesterday. You ever leave that in the hands of Jeff and me, and it's a total disaster. Thankfully, our man Clyde is back from Hawaii. He was here for 1 day, and now he's back. Thank you, Clyde. And, of course, over his shoulder, we can't show this on YouTube Live, we've got the Morton Anderson beefcake poster right above. He's always staring over at Clyde's shoulder, looking at him, judging him, doing everything.
The question is, why did Clyde come back?
For that poster, and, yeah, that is why. Just stay in Hawaii, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Surf. Live the life.
Again, 504-260-1280. We'll have a lot of open time in the 11 o'clock hour to get some calls in. We'll interact. You guys can bring the topics, but we got Albert Breer coming up, 10:45. Herbie Teope from NOLA.com, our colleague covering the Saints at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. So, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeart Radio app, and 101.1 FM HD2. We're Dunc and Holder.
Welcome to the grind.
This one is gone.
The day in, day out. One series to the next.
100-mile-an-hour struck him out.
The Cakes take on the Fresno Grizzlies. Tonight at 9. Only on Sports 1280. Your home for the New Orleans Baby Cakes.
This week on Big Easy Deals, get a family 4-pack to the Audubon Zoo for just $38. Check out the exotic mix of animals from around the globe. Don't miss the Watoto Walk, the playful monkeys, or the mysterious white alligators. Go to FoxSportsAM1280.com. Keyword deals.
Hurry in. For a limited time, get big savings on automotive batteries while they're hot. Visit AutoZone today for hot deals on the parts and supplies you need. While heat causes battery fluid to evaporate, which could damage your battery, Duralast batteries are designed to beat the heat, tested to start your car at up to 167 degrees Fahrenheit. And right now, you'll get a $20 AutoZone gift card by mail-in rebate when you buy select automotive batteries. Let's get you what you need. Restrictions and details apply. Limit 2.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Driver to driver, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Driving with Uber is the ultimate side hustle. It totally fits around your schedule, so you can earn whenever you have time. Maybe that's before breakfast on Sundays. Maybe that's after work on Mondays. It's totally up to you. That's the best part. Here's the other equally best part. With Uber's Instant Pay, you can get paid whenever you want. So get your side hustle on. Visit uber.com/drive now. That's uber.com/drive now.
Are you ready?
The iHeartRadio Music Festival Capital One cardholder presale is on. Cardholders get access to tickets right now. Tickets on sale to the general public this Friday at 12 p.m. Go to iHeartRadio.com/Capital One before they sell out.
The worldwide phenomenon is back. Our 2017 iHeartRadio Music Festival, hosted by Ryan Seacrest. September 22nd and 23rd at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Over 20 of the greatest performers on the planet converge in Las Vegas for 2 nights. The iHeartRadio Music Festival Capital One cardholder presale is on. Cardholders get access to tickets right now. Tickets on sale to the general public this Friday at 12 p.m. Go to iHeartRadio.com/Capital One before they sell out.
A Wendy's Frosty is something special. And for a limited time, a Frosty is just 50 cents. An American classic for a classic price. It's not quite a milkshake, not quite an ice cream cone. It's definitely chocolate or vanilla. That choice is on you. Use a spoon or a French fry. Anything goes. A Frosty makes summer special. Yep, there's nothing quite like a Frosty. And there's nothing quite like this deal. A Frosty for 50 cents. Get yours before this deal melts away.
Small Frosty only at participating Wendy's for a limited time. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Dave's spinning it.
MJ. Your boy, Jeff. Your boy.
Very much so.
Very much so, huh?
We should have a segment one day comparing Prince to MJ. Who's greater? Who's better?
I would say Vanilla Ice. Better than both.
Vanilla Ice.
Vanilla Ice, A, still living. B, he has a construction show on one of those channels on cable. DIY or something, or HGTV. I don't know.
Sounds like things are going well for him.
He's alive, so that's good.
Wow.
That's all I got.
Well, I'm a Prince guy. Just let it for the record. I'm all about Prince.
So you were big into the Minnesota Vikings Prince song. Remember that was hot in 2009.
I do not remember that actually.
So
Dave, can we get that? Dave can probably pull that up.
Dave's gonna have to pull that up. Get the Prince
He's on
2009 Minnesota Vikings song. It's an atrocity.
You can play that awful. For Brett Anderson, our closet Vikings fan, our Minneapolis native.
Well, tell him why. Of course, Brett Anderson is our food critic over at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. He comes from a pretty prestigious background up in Minnesota.
Yes, dad, former Governor Wendell Anderson, and a long-suffering Brett, that is, Vikings fan. So as many Vikings fans are.
So 4 beans or 5 beans for his dad, 0 beans for Jesse the Body Ventura, former governor of Minnesota?
Yes. He would be down on that. He's also a long-suffering Timberwolves fan, as every Timberwolves fan is.
Is he in the movie Little Big League where the kid becomes the Twins manager?
No, as far as I know.
I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. was in that movie. Why wouldn't he?
I have not seen that movie, so
come on! It's like Rookie of the Year with the Henry Rowan Gardner, Bumgardner. I don't know.
I'll put that on my to-do list.
It's like Little Big League, Angels in the Outfield, and Rookie of the Year. All little kid random.
I'm more
Major League Baseball
Bad News
movies.
Bears era. That was my.
You're more Naked Gun with OJ. Stopping the Queen. That's what you are.
What's wrong with that?
Reggie Jackson,
it's a classic.
OJ.
It's a classic.
Party on.
Yes.
I don't know how we went on this tangent.
What's going on?
That's what we happened.
Just derailed into insanity.
I think the fact that my mind is totally boggled that Donnell Ellerbe is hurt and now he's finally gone from the Saints. I'm just so troubled.
Shocking.
Yeah.
We're all stunned. Unbelievable story. We talked about it. You and I talked about it after Peyton was on Monday that he's reached his breaking point with Donnell Ellerbe. You could just tell that he's not counting on him, and knowing Peyton, he gives players a certain amount of time, and if you're not available, he's moving on. I think they clearly had to make this call. They couldn't wait any longer.
No, they couldn't. And you look at Donnell Ellerbe, and it's always going to be what could have been, but he comes over in the trade, and I'm burying the lead. Saints are going to put him on injured reserve, and they're going to release him, according to sources that our own Josh Katzenstein talked to yesterday. And it sounds like from one side, from one source, they're claiming Donnell could be back on the field in 3 weeks, but the Saints have had it. We've seen this so many times, and so they're done with him. And again, Ellerbe played 9 games last year. I think he only played 6 or 7 his first year. And when he's on the field, he's a contributor, but he's so often not on the field, you can never count on him, like ever count on him.
Yeah, played 15 games in his Saints career out of a possible 32. Played. Started 12. And I never really bought into the, there was a lot of hype about him. I definitely felt like Ellerbe was a good player and was an upgrade for what the Saints had at linebacker, but I never bought into him being a difference maker. I just never saw that. He had one game I know where he had a lot of tackles, and when I reviewed it, he was making a lot of them downfield, like Stephon Anthony did. He made some sacks. He showed ability to pass rush, but this was no Luke Kuechly or anybody, and sometimes I felt like it bordered on that kind of hype around the guy.
Well, if you see one Saints defensive player actually making plays, he deserves hype because not many of them do. And I think that's part of the problem. And, Jeff, you look back at the trade. Of course, the Saints traded. That's how they acquired Donnell Ellerbe. They traded Kenny Stills to the Dolphins, and they got a third-round pick, which turned into P.J. Williams and Donnell Ellerbe. It's almost like Ellerbe was that throw-in to the trade, and it really reminds me, and it's the exact same positions. Way back 2006, the Saints traded Dante Stallworth to the Eagles. They got a fourth-round pick, and they got Mark Simoneau. And Mark Simoneau came in with no hype and actually ended up being their starting middle linebacker and was part of that 2006 team that made it to the NFC title game. And this one, maybe they were thinking the same philosophy. Obviously, that did not pan out.
Yeah, and he came with an injury concern. I mean, he played one game in 2014 for Miami, had the injury, and he clearly has never gotten past that. The player that Miami thought they were getting from Baltimore really never panned out. And look, let's hope he gets back on the field. No one wants to see a career end, but he's going to have to stay healthy, and I think that's a huge question mark for anybody that signed Donnell Ellerbe at this point.
I love Ian Rappaport, who I've known for a long time, works for the NFL Network, and he broke the story, but I love the explanation behind his tweet. He's getting released. He's going to be a hot free agent. To who? Who's he going to be a hot free agent for? Give me a break.
That was a little hat tip to the agent. We know that. We know how it works.
You're not supposed to outsource this. What is the matter with you?
Look, Donnell Ellerbe in 2 years had 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and 4 sacks. That's not a difference maker.
I think he had all 4 sacks last year.
Right.
And they had to use him as a pass rusher because up front they did not have enough people to help out Cam Jordan, help out Nick Fairley. Now Nick Fairley's gone. I think, let's see, where did Fairley rank? Ellerbe rank on the team hierarchy in sacks. Imagine this. If he's like 3rd or 4th, I mean, you lost 2 of your most prolific sackers from last year. You don't have Fairley anymore, and you don't have Ellerbe, and so you got to figure it all out again.
And look, the overhaul of the defense continues when you start thinking about he was a guy projected to be a starter a year ago. Jarris Byrd, gone. Paul Kruger, we talked about him, gone. So there's 3 projected starters from a year ago, aren't even on the team this year. And look, I think they spent the offseason acquiring linebackers as insurance in case this became a reality. So that's one thing I would say is they were prepared for this. It looks like they drafted Alex Anzalone. They just brought in Michael Maudie, signed A.J. Klein to work in the middle. Monte Teo, Adam Big Hill, the Canadian guy. I mean,
you're big on Big Hill.
I love Big Hill.
He just looks like a bowling ball to me. I
love him.
I do want to see him in pads, and we're going to get our first chance on Saturday. But you're big on Big Hill.
I love that he wears number 99. I love that about him. This is cool.
So he's Norman Hand playing linebacker. Is that who
Not
he is?
quite. He's a mini me.
He's a bowling ball. So
he is.
But hopefully he just doesn't expand. What is it? Horizontally?
Yes.
Because that would make him tough for him to make some tackles.
Big Hill's the defensive version of like Mike Tolbert. He's
exactly
very similarly built. If they met in the line or in the hole, it'd be interesting to see who'd win that.
Exactly. So the Saints have made a bunch of moves already this offseason, and I'm sure as training camp comes, we'll see a bunch more. But what's your reaction? I'm sure everyone's stunned about Dannell Ellerbe being let go, but do you think the Saints made a good call? Give us a call, 504-260-1280. Like I said, we will have some open segments later on in the show. We'll also talk about the Pelicans later on in the show. Anthony Davis had a conference call with some media and gave his take on Rajon Rondo and Drew Holiday. So we'll mention that later on in the 11 o'clock hour. But let's take a quick break right here on Dunc and Holder. Again, to get involved in the show, 504-260-1280. You can chime in on our YouTube Live comment stream. And in about 15 minutes, we're going to have Albert Breer from mmqb.com. We're going to have Herbie Teope, top of the 11 o'clock hour, our colleague from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, talk more Saints. So come on back with Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app, and 101.1 FM HD2. We're Dunc and Holder.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by Unbound.org.
Good morning from the Fox 8 Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Shelby Latino. Temperatures will climb into the low to mid-90s this afternoon with mostly dry and mostly sunny skies. We'll, of course, still have that humidity around, so plan for it to feel like the triple digits. Temperatures will fall into the upper 70s overnight and back into the mid-90s for highs tomorrow. We'll stay mostly dry through the rest of the week with hot and sunny conditions, and then over the weekend, a rare July cold front will make its way toward us. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shelby Latino. Have a great day.
There's a girl in El Salvador who dreams of becoming an engineer. There's an elder in Uganda who dreams of having a community to call his own. No two dreams are the same. Help one person achieve theirs at Unbound.org.
Do you know the power of a good idea? The Latrim Corporation has grown through people and their ideas. It all started in 1949 when our founder, J.M. Lapierre, invented automatic shrimp peeling machinery that changed the seafood industry. J.M. founded the Latrim companies, Intralox, Lapierre Stair, Latrim Machinery, and Latrim Machine Shop. The people of these companies have patented hundreds of new inventions used around the world. If you have good ideas and want to help create the next Latrim innovation, visit Latrim.com for a full listing of positions.
You can infuse your food with the taste of sweet applewood or bold hickory, or you can infuse it with gas or charcoal. Probably not the most delicious option. Traeger grills use real 100% hardwood fuel to grill, smoke, bake, braise, roast, and barbecue your food to juicy perfection. And that is the key. It keeps all the moisture in. You don't dry anything out when you're cooking on that 6-in-1 versatility. Flavor that gas and charcoal grills simply can't compete with. Plus, they're so easy to use. You just turn the dial, you set the temperature. You can even use an app. You can control it from your phone if you want to. Can't decide on what to make? They've got hundreds of wood-fired recipes on their website to choose from. Go to TraegerGrills.com/recipes to get a little inspiration. So get cooking with the best wood-fired food that you can imagine. Visit your local Traeger dealer. They spell it Traeger. Find the one nearest you at TraegerGrills.com/dealers and get one today.
Worry less with Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty Mutual saved me almost $800 when I switched my home and auto insurance.
Liberty did what?
Yeah, I got the perfect coverage for us, and I didn't have to worry about skimping on Emma's party.
Oh, well, that explains the
Pony! Best birthday ever!
Visit us online to get a quote. You can leave worry behind when Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance. Based on a recent countrywide survey of new customers. Coverage is underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company.
The uncensored talk about your teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This is not the Prince Viking song, but good enough. Tom's Diner, who is this? Suzanne Vega, I think?
Suzanne Vega. That's awesome.
This is awful that I know this. I watch like way too much Music Choice 90s in my house when I'm cleaning up.
She sang
You
Luca,
just hand me
right?
your man card when you're done with the show today.
I have no man card.
Luca, right? Wasn't that her big hit?
Well, this is the big hit. Tom's Diner.
Okay.
Come on, get with the program. But we cannot find the Viking song. We found some broken links. Vikings.com had the terrible song, and it said watch here, and it doesn't exist. And ESPN.com, that link died, so I have no idea what happened to the Viking song.
Yeah, but you know what we do have? I'm sure we have Take It to the Top.
We will have that eternally.
We're never going to lose
Clyde
that.
missed it, our social media guy from NOLA.com. He missed it.
Ah.
Clyde needs a headset because he can't hear the song. Oh, well.
So great.
Dave tried to ruin your hopes and dreams, and you ruined our hopes and dreams.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry.
But, Jeff, let's go back into the conversation about the Saints linebackers. Donnell Ellerbe is gone, and he would have been, if healthy, your starting weak side linebacker. And last year, Craig Robertson had to play that role at sometimes and was your middle linebacker for most of the season. I don't know if they throw Craig Robertson in the mix as the starter or if they put someone else there. I think this just creates even more competition at a spot where who are the only carryovers from last year? Robertson and Stupar, and now Mike Maudie comes back.
Correct.
And so now you've got, well, Stephon Anthony. Oh, how do I forget Stephon Anthony?
Yeah, it's easy to forget
He's
him.
forgettable.
They have 10 linebackers on the depth chart, and 4 are returnees. So, yeah, 6 new ones.
I don't know who's going to win that job. Could it be Craig Robertson? To me, I bet you day one in camp, he's your weak side linebacker.
I think they end up putting just the 3 best guys out there. It's almost like a basketball team. Find out who, because they're all pretty interchangeable. I think Monte Teope even told us that he could play weak side if needed. So we'll see. I mean, this is going to be a wide open competition, and they've got a new coach, Mike Nolan. So everybody's got a clean slate, and it sounds like they really want Stephon Anthony to win a job. I mean, they're giving him a big opportunity. They gave him a lot of reps with the ones in camp, in mini camp. They're going to give him every opportunity. This is a big training camp for Stephon Anthony's NFL career.
He is a lightning rod among Saints fans. He's a lightning rod, honestly, within media, just because of where he was drafted, how the draft pick was acquired. Of course, he came in the Jimmy Graham trade. And Stephon Anthony, was the 31st overall pick? So if he were picked 2 picks later, I bet you we would not talk about him the same way we talk about him right now.
Yeah,
if he was 33 overall, the first pick in the second round, we would not have as much fodder with him, and he would not be viewed as much as a potential bust.
Same way any first-round draft pick gets that. You could make that argument for Reggie Bush when he came in at number 2. Reggie Bush was a productive player. He just wasn't the next Gale Sayers, but he was a good player. But the expectations were so outsized for him. Same way with Mark Ingram. The fact they traded up into the first round to get him, he came with the Heisman Trophy, label or the Heisman Trophy. He had that. So I think these expectations are just part and parcel for first-round draft picks. And it's not fair to Stephon Anthony, but it's the way it is, man. It's the big leagues.
And you could look at it in an extremely similar situation with Patrick Robinson. He was the number 32 overall pick in that 2010 draft, but he had first round attached to him. If he were the 34th pick, no one would be like, Patrick Robinson, what a bust. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Saints fans would not tag him as this gigantic bust. They just wouldn't.
Yeah, and his name came up this week when we were trying to review all the first round, all the investments the Saints have made at the cornerback position in the Breeze-Payton era, obviously in relation to Marshawn Lattimore, who's the latest investment, with the number 11 overall pick. The Saints drafted Malcolm Jenkins, who was a corner at Ohio State in the first round. I ended up moving to safety, and they brought in a slew of veteran free agent corners that have failed. Obviously, Brandon Browner, Champ Bailey. We can go down the list. They just have not been able.
Wait, Brandon Browner was on this team?
Yeah.
Does he still hold the record for most penalties in a single season? And very unprofessionally, my phone's ringing in the middle of the segment. It's awesome.
Nice.
Radio gold!
First rodeo here. No, look, the cornerback spot, to me, is the most, even more so than the linebackers. As you know, you and I have talked over the years, I'm not a big linebacker guy. I think that's an overrated position in this day and age, unless you can get a Luke Kuechly or somebody of that nature. I just feel like it's a position that hardly makes a difference in winning and losing. But the cornerback spot, I mean, man, that's wide open right now. And when you're hanging your hat on Delvin Breaux, who's had basically one season under his belt of bona fide top NFL play, and he's your sure thing, you've got some problems or some question marks or questions to answer at that position.
And let's be honest about linebacker, because I have a different philosophy maybe than you do. I think they're more valuable than you do. We've debated this a bunch on our Dat Chat podcast on NOLA.com over the past year or two. But they're not on the field as much as they used to be. How often do you see three linebackers on the field in a 4-3? 20%, maybe less, because of the nature of the game. And the way the Saints play, they play three safeties more often than not. And going into this year, you might only play two safeties, because if you have three viable corners, you're not going to put the third safety out there. You're going to have Breaux, P.J. Williams, and Lattimore. That's the goal you want to have. You don't want to have Kenny Vaccaro out of necessity or Von Bell out of necessity having to cover a guy. That's not optimal.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing more and more of these hybrid type guys. Kenny Vaccaro kind of plays that joker role, almost like a extra linebacker in passing situations. Roman Harper did some of that in his career, and we see a lot of these guys getting drafted very high. Like Shaq Thompson comes to mind. The guy that was from Washington, I think he plays that role. I think in Carolina.
Yeah, that's Shaq Thompson.
Shaq Thompson, right?
He put on weight to become more of a, because he came out probably 220. And I think that's like Jabril Peppers from Michigan.
Right.
I think they're going to have to try to figure out what position they want to play him, because he was kind of all over the place.
Yeah, they're just getting these great athletes, and they'll match them up on tight ends or running backs. The Saints will do that with their three safety look. And I think that, again, is making linebackers a little more and more obsolete unless you have a true difference maker. Now, a guy like Debo Jones, that can cover, I think there's a value to that. But the Saints, that's a very elusive trait for them. They haven't really had a great cover linebacker. I can't remember the last one.
I remember how many people, as we go to break here on Dunc and Holder, I remember how many people used to complain about how Scott Shanley couldn't cover, and now those were the glory days, and people are saying, I wish Scott Shanley was back.
Right.
It's funny how that is. Let's take a quick break right here on Dunc and Holder. Coming up next, MMQB.com's Albert Breer will join us, top of the 11 o'clock hour. Herbie, Teope, and then we'll have some open segments in the back end of the show. Get involved, 504-260-1280. So come on back, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app, and 101.1 FM, HD2. I swear I'm going to get that right one day. We're Dunc and Holder.
Hey, it's Clay Travis of Outkick the Coverage. On the show, we'll react to all the biggest headlines. If news breaks early, we've got you covered. Plus, the most dangerous and non-PC Bravani sports talk radio.
Mornings 5 to 8. Sports 1280. New Orleans.
AutoZone presents the oil change. Regular oil changes protect your engine from wear and tear, helping your car roll well beyond the 100,000-mile mark. And right now, you can get 5 quarts of Valvoline conventional motor oil and an STP filter for just $23.99. So visit your local AutoZone. With over 5,000 locations, the right supplies and good advice are just around the corner. Let's get you what you need. See store for restrictions and details.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Something massive has happened to the iHeartRadio app. We listen to your ideas and suggestions. Everything you had to tell us about how we could improve your listening experience. And the result is the newly designed iHeartRadio app. It's not an update, but a complete upgrade with one goal in mind: getting you closer to the music you love.
This is Dan from Imagine Dragons, and this is iHeartRadio.
Download and open the new iHeartRadio app today.
A Wendy's Frosty is something special. And for a limited time, a Frosty is just 50 cents. An American classic for a classic price. It's not quite a milkshake, not quite an ice cream cone. It's definitely chocolate or vanilla. That choice is on you. Use a spoon or a French fry. Anything goes. A Frosty makes summer special. Yep, there's nothing quite like a Frosty. And there's nothing quite like this deal. A Frosty for 50 cents. Get yours before this deal melts away.
Small Frosty only at participating Wendy's for a limited time. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?
Hi, neighbor. Mr. Rogers passed along friendship, hoping we would too. Friendship, pass it on, from the Foundation for a Better Life at Values.com.
Of course, our kids should eat fresh, healthy foods, but there's no supermarket nearby.
I wish we were closer to good health care because of our son's asthma.
And closer to nice homes, decent schools,
But we have none of these resources.
Many variables can shape children's lives, like the zip code where they grow up. Learn how you can help improve your community at HUD.gov/fair housing. Fair housing, shared opportunity in every community. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Back at you, Dunc and Holder here on Sports 1280 and on NOLA.com. And joining us, I think, from Cleveland, as I think I just saw a tweet from our good buddy MMQB.com's Albert Breer. Albert, you enjoying Cleveland already or what?
I'm not in Cleveland. I'm at home. I'm going out to Pacers tomorrow, and I'm listening to a few of the coaches, open camp and everything else, and I was just watching Hugh online. So that's where I came from.
So I'm a liar. Fake news. That's me. Fake news.
Part of my job is paying attention to everything. So sometimes it's in person, other times it's this way.
Did you pay attention to Deadspin today?
You mean the site run by those Brooklyn hipsters, right? They like to push buttons a little bit.
I just saw a glorious picture of you and some expletive-laden headline. What's up?
It's not the first one. It's not the first time they've used that picture of me with my eyes closed. And every time it's like, it's funny. People in our business are scared of them for some reason, and they're like, "Oh my God, Deadspin's coming after you." So, whatever. I mean, it was kind of typical of them, which was, it's just a story that didn't take into account what I was really saying. It's just sort of twisted what I said, and look, the guy who's doing it isn't exactly a reporter either, and doesn't know what goes into the job and all of that. So I guess he can kind of take his shots from the peanut gallery there. It's fine.
Albert, you're in good company because I know they've taken on your colleague and cohort Peter King many times, and that's good company to be in.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Hulk Hogan, though.
I was about to say, I'm sure Deadspin and Gawker are too. Albert, wanted you to jump on here because you were with us during minicamp, and you had a chance to catch up with Adrian Peterson, and you wrote about him. Just 2 points there. Where do you think the Adrian Peterson storyline kind of fits in the national scope as far as storylines going into the season? And what was kind of your takeaway from talking with him and hearing what he had to say and what his teammates had to say about him?
Well, I think it's a big storyline because of the type of player he has been and his place in the league over the last 10 years. I mean, it's, you had a guy who was playing the position at about as high a level as you could possibly play it for a good period of years there. broke precedent the way he came back from that ACL surgery and winning the MVP, almost broke Eric Dickerson's record. And then of course he's involved with the child abuse case, and so that sort of took his fame into a different arena. And so he's a newsmaker. The bottom line, you add all that together, he's whatever he does is going to be a big deal because of who he is. My takeaway from what I saw in June was that every one of his teammates seemed to be impressed with where he is physically. And I don't think that was ever in question at the end in Minnesota either, based on what I've heard from guys who coached him there. He still had that freakish ability. The question with him was going to always be, can he stay healthy? Because as you get older, it becomes a little harder to avoid injury. And B, can he adapt? And he's been the focal point of every offense he's ever been a part of. And so can he adapt into being a different type of player? And can he adapt into to playing a different role? And can he learn how to evolve, into a guy who can do a few different things for you, because he's always sort of been asked to do one thing. There was never really any question in Minnesota about the juice he has left in his legs, and I think that that's really reflected in the way the guys in New Orleans saw him, all the guys that I talked to, and then him himself. The larger questions don't really come into play until we get to the fall.
Albert, what's the national perspective on the Saints this season? I just wrote my pre-training camp column about them being a very mysterious team, I think, because they've got so many question marks, and Adrian Peterson's one of them. Really, you don't know if you're getting the 2015 Adrian Peterson or the 2016 Adrian Peterson, and they have so many other guys coming back from injury. They seem like an intriguing team, and a lot of people don't really know what to make of them.
Yeah, Jeff, it feels like there's less buzz around them than there's been in a long time. Because of Drew Brees' presence really over the last decade, I've always felt like I've always approached them as one of the more prominent teams in the league, and it just, I don't know, it just feels like even with Peterson there, even with some of the changes that, because they've gone 7-9 the last 3 years, that they've sort of fallen off the national radar to some degree, and maybe that's where they want to be. They've obviously done the job the last few years in trying to turn over the roster, and a lot for them, of course, is going to depend on how some of those young players come along. With Armstead's injury, what does the line look like with young guys like Ramczyk and Pete up there? Is the offense going to look different? They're going to be a little less reliant on Brees in the passing game with Peterson and Brandon Cooks out. And then, they've invested a lot of time into rebuilding the defense over the last couple of years. Does Dennis Allen finally have what it takes to turn that group around? And so, I think the national perspective on them is, to some degree versus where they've been the last few years, they've sort of become forgotten, and even in their own division, where you see Tampa as the up-and-coming team, and Atlanta is a big story because they're coming back from that Super Bowl collapse. Even Carolina, how does Cam come back? It's just, it feels like they've kind of come back to the pack the last few years, and because of that, they're maybe not as newsworthy as they once were.
Albert Breer from the MMQB.com covers the league like no one else. Talks to people, sources everywhere, and does an awesome job. Join us right here on Dunc and Holder. You can follow him on Twitter at Albert Breer. Albert, outside of being a Deadspin cover boy, you made some other interesting news here in New Orleans. I know Jason McIntyre. He used to come on my old radio show. Now he's got his own radio show on Fox Sports Radio. And he threw out who could be a dark horse for the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes. And you said the Saints. What went into your thought process there?
Well, I feel like the fact that Drew Brees is going to be a free agent after this year, at least nationally, and I'm sure you guys have talked about it, but at least nationally, it feels like that's been underplayed to some degree. And I don't even know, how many people nationally even know that he has that no franchise tag provision in his contract. So he's got, basically an open freeway to free agency right now. And I think you guys know this. Over the last couple of years, there's been open questions about whether or not there will be big changes in the power structure in New Orleans. What's Sean going to do going forward? And with all that stuff floating around, I think it sort of throws everything up into the air. And if it did come to a point where Drew Brees decided, you know what, I want to go play out my career somewhere else, or the Saints decided we need someone in here who's going to be more of a long-term answer for us, one thing that was brought up to me is what a good fit Kirk Cousins would be for Sean Payton's offense. Even if Sean Payton isn't there, say a new head coach comes in or Dennis Allen gets promoted, and you still have the offensive staff, with Pete Carmichael and his staff there. I mean, it's just there's a feeling out there that Kirk Cousins has a similar skill set to Drew Brees. He's not Drew Brees, of course, but has some of the same. The ability isn't that different, and that he'd be a good fit there in New Orleans. So again, I'm not pushing Drew Brees out the door, but it seems for the last few years, between Peyton and Brees and the way that whole organization's set up, it's sort of been year to year, and that's why I think it's an open question what happens in 2018 at quarterback for them.
It's a good point, Albert. I was unconvinced, but you actually done a good job of convincing me. I could see if this thing.
Jeff's a flip flopper. Now you come on the air, and he loves you.
Dunc. Listen, here's the deal, right? Like, ask the guys who coached him under Mike Shanahan, who coached Kirk under Mike Shanahan in Washington, and they'll all tell you they saw a poor man's Drew Brees. That's his ceiling, and so that's part of what made me match it up too, where it's like, well, if they see that, then I'm sure Sean to some degree can see that because he's worked with Drew so closely. And so, it takes a certain type of quarterback to run Sean Payton's offense, and that was part of the thinking too, is that if you want to run the offense the way it's constructed to be run, you can't just bring any quarterback in there. And Cousins is the type of guy who could run that sort of offense.
I tell you, for listeners out here, if you haven't had a chance to listen, Albert Breer's got a great podcast. I know you put together a great podcast every week, so get a chance, go on MMQB, call that baby up, and you'll learn a lot more about the NFL.
Yep, Albert, we got to run here, but appreciate the time as always, and I'm sure we will catch up with you down the line. Maybe outside of Deadspin. Yes.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Good luck with the show, all right?
Thanks, Albert. Appreciate it, buddy. That's Albert Breer, the MMQB.com. Of course, Albert, big addition recently, jumping ship from NFL Network. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. Herbie Teope, our Saints beat writer at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. He will join us at the top of the hour, and then we will have a lot of time for your phone calls. 504-260-1280. Come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com. We're Dunc and Holder.
All you have to do is wait a second. Your hands on mine.
This hot track is missing something ice cold. Nothing refreshes like an ice cold Pepsi. Pepsi. Crisp, smooth, refreshing, delicious. Grab a Pepsi today.
Just take your time. The clock is ticking, so stay.
AutoZone presents the oil change. Regular oil changes protect your engine from wear and tear, helping your car roll well beyond the 100,000-mile mark. And right now, you can get 5 quarts of Valvoline conventional motor oil and an STP filter for just $23.99. So visit your local AutoZone. With over 5,000 locations, the right supplies and good advice are just around the corner. Let's get you what you need. See store for restrictions and details.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280. Fox Sports trending now.
Move things off in the National Football League, where Miami Dolphins center Mike Pouncey is ready to go. He's been medically cleared for training camp, placed in the IR during Week 10 of last season, then had surgery on his hip, but he is ready to lace him up. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Sammy Coates underwent a knee scope just last week. The surgery will not allow him to be active during training camp. He'll open up things on the physically unable to perform list. Adam Schefter is reporting Baltimore Ravens are signing running back Bobby Rainey with Kenneth Dixon going down. In tennis, Novak Djokovic will miss the remainder of the season with an injured right elbow. He'll have some rest for the rest of the season, will not participate at the U.S. Open. It's the first major he has missed in his professional career. I'm David Gascon.
We are Sports.
Do you have persistent knee pain? Is knee pain affecting your daily life? You may have an option. Medical researchers are evaluating an investigational device for people who still have knee pain following meniscus surgery. You will receive treatment from an orthopedic surgeon who specializes in sports medicine. Your physician will monitor your treatment at regular follow-up visits using advanced diagnostic techniques. If you were 30 to 75 years of age, have had meniscus surgery over 6 months ago, and still have knee pain, you may qualify. Please visit sun-trial.com for more information and to find out if you qualify for this clinical research opportunity. Limited space is available, so please visit sun-trial.com or call 877-843-0657. We are enrolling participants now at a leading medical facility near you. Visit sun-trial.com or call 877-843-0657.
The IRS doesn't mess around. If they want your money, they'll take it. They can take your paycheck and bank accounts too, even threaten your home or business. And it's about to get worse. The IRS just hired an army of new tax enforcers. So, if you owe back taxes, the smartest thing you can do is call Optima Tax Relief. Optima has access to a special IRS tax assistance program called the Fresh Start Initiative. And their clients that qualify are saving thousands, even tens of thousands. One call starts the process to stop the demand letters, stop aggressive collection actions, and stop that army of new enforcers from targeting you. But don't delay. It's important to act now while you still have options. Optima is A-rated with the Better Business Bureau. Optima has already resolved over $500 million of tax debt for their clients. Get your life back. Call now for your free consultation.
Call 800-798-2477. That's 800-798-2477. 800-798-2477.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Concur does what might seem impossible for your business. It makes employees happy and finance happy. How? Well, employees love automated expense reports and invoices they can submit and approve from anywhere. And finance loves that they have full visibility into employee spend. Plus, Concur integrates with leading finance systems. Concur makes the process better for everyone. Concur. Expense, travel, invoice. Learn more at concur.com.
Hurry in. For a limited time, get big savings on automotive batteries while they're hot. Visit AutoZone today for hot deals on the parts and supplies you need. While heat causes battery fluid to evaporate, which could damage your battery, Duralast batteries are designed to beat the heat, tested to start your car at up to 167 degrees Fahrenheit. And right now, you'll get a $20 AutoZone gift card by mail-in rebate when you buy select automotive batteries. Let's get you what you need. Restrictions and details apply. Limit 2.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Rich Eisen here. The Honda Accord is a summer standout. It's stylish, spacious, and thanks to the available 278 horsepower V6 engine with sport mode, it's got moves too. It even comes equipped with Honda Sensing, a suite of available safety and driver assistive technologies like the collision mitigation braking system. It helps bring the Accord to a stop when it senses that there could be an impact. So hurry into the Honda Summerbration sales event where well-qualified buyers can score a hot deal on a 2017 Accord.
All loans subject to lender approval. Must be in business 1 year and have $100,000 in annual revenue.
Trying to take your small business to the next level? There's a few things you're going to need. A great vision, dedication, and perseverance. But above all else, you're going to need capital. At On Deck, we know having access to capital can be a game changer. That's why we're here to help entrepreneurs receive the capital they need from a lender they can trust. On Deck has delivered over $6 billion in loans, and having earned an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, it's no wonder why 9 out of 10 customers would recommend On Deck to a friend. On Deck knows you're more than just your personal credit score. That's why they also evaluate your actual business performance. There's no obligation, and you could receive your loan decision in minutes and funding in as fast as 1 business day. Over 60,000 small businesses have already received the loans they needed, and now it's your turn.
Speak with our U.S.-based loan specialists and find out how much you qualify for now at OnDeckLending.com. That's OnDeckLending.com.
Dunc and Holder, hour number 2 at you. Had Pete Thamel on to open hour number 1, Yahoo Sports national college football writer. Last segment we had on Albert Breer from the mmqb.com. If you missed any of that, you could go check out the podcasts after our show, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes page, NOLA.com, SoundCloud page, and NOLA.com. We'll have a wrap-up post like we do each and every day that my cohort in crime, Jeff Duncan, puts up after each show. So coming up here shortly, we're going to have Herbie Teope, our Saints beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. And Jeff, later on this afternoon, Sean Payton, Mickey Loomis, they will have their annual pre-training camp press conference. And actually, they're going to be doing a press conference here shortly. What is it? The Saints and the Pelicans have a business announcement?
I think naming rights to the training facility, and if I want to scoop people, let's say it's a large hospital in New Orleans, will be attaching its name to the training facility.
Is it a random, what is it? Why am I drawing a blank? Quick care, health care. What is what urgent care? Why? What the hell just happened there?
Thanks, Dave. Brain lock.
Urgent care, quick care, health care. I don't know.
Red Bull.
Jeez, that was
disaster. That's what's going to happen at 11. They got a busy day today out at Saints camp with opening camp tomorrow. Mickey and Sean later today. The business side has some announcements today. So a lot going on out in Metairie.
And of course, the training test, conditioning fitness test that goes on. And Sean Payton joked about it. If someone is a disaster in the test, they'll be on PUP. But someone who's not taking the test is Donnell Ellerbe. And again, that is something we didn't anticipate he would be cut this early. But if you kind of had to assume that Sean Payton at some point was going to draw the line and say, that's it. So much so, we've told this story a couple times already on the show in the last week and a half. When you're the head coach and your son comes up to you and asks you who's going to be the inactives for a game, and you're afraid to tell him who the inactives are because you don't want to say it's Donnell Ellerbe because you're going to catch hell from your kid, it's a bad deal for you if you're a player.
And invariably, when we would announce the inactives on Twitter at Saints games, the Twitter sphere would erupt from Saints fans with similar reactions that Ellerbe was permanently on this inactive list weekly. So I think Sean Payton clearly run out of patience and is just moving on. He doesn't want to deal with those week-to-week questions and the week-to-week uncertainty of whether he's going to have a veteran linebacker available. They have depth there now, and so I think he feels good about the players they do have available moving forward.
And you look at they drafted Alex Anzalone, they got Manti Te'o, they got A.J. Klein, and to me, the only for sure thing on this linebacker core is A.J. Klein. I think he will be a starter, and I assume he's going to be the middle linebacker. It's kind of getting out from Luke Kuechly's shadow. And so where do you go everywhere else? I think that's the big question.
Well, I think he subs out in passing situations for sure, and they'll go to that 3 safety look that Dennis Allen prefers with Von Bell, Kenny Vaccaro, and Marcus Williams. And that's going to be the Saints' primary defense because they'll be on the field most of the time rather than A.J. Klein. I think if all things work out and everybody's healthy, A.J. Klein will have played less snaps than probably their nickel corner and their third safety, or very similar amount of snaps, put it that way.
And look, this doesn't mean, okay, Donnell Ellerbe's out, but the fact that you bring back a Michael Maudie and they open the door back to him, I think that's just one body where they know he's going to fight and scratch and claw, and it just the impression to me always has been, boy, if Donnell Ellerbe wants to find a way to stay off the field, he'll do it. I remember even his teammates in the locker room, I think there was a birth, he became a dad birth of a child, and he was gone, and people were joking, man, this is the longest anyone's ever been out for paternity leave, and it ended up he had some wacky injury that happened.
Yeah, and look, I want to circle back a little bit, move off down to LLB, and just circle back to what Albert Breer said about the lack of buzz around Saints camp, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. They have largely lost that kind of national hype that they used to have with Drew Brees. I mean, clearly the biggest story right now is Adrian Peterson nationally, and I think that that's interesting because I've always credited Peyton and Brees for changing the national perception of the team and making them more high profile. But we see it year to year when the schedule's announced. The Saints are not a national TV regular now. They're kind of a forgotten team, and I think they kind of like that a little bit. But there's also, I'm sure, a big part of them that feels like that gives them a chip on their shoulder this year.
Joining us right here on Dunc and Holder, making his highly awaited debut for the Game of Thrones segment, for the Star Wars segment. I wonder if he's into like Wizards and Warcraft and Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know, but Herbie Teope, our NOLA.com Saints beat writer, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Do you do Dungeons and Dragons, and do you like dress up as a wizard and go around town and fly dragons? Is that your thing?
Oh, that's just wrong, man. How you gentlemen doing, first of all? I will say this. Yes, I used to play Dungeons and Dragons. Surprise, right? As a young teenager. But, you know, when you grow up a big fan of the Lord of the Rings trilogy series, the Hobbit series, and you just progress as you get older, and now all of a sudden we have Game of Thrones, and it's just natural for me. I love that kind of stuff.
You know, the Lord of the Rings, Herbie, was the first series I think I ever read, like the first, if you could call them novels, I ever read. The Hobbit. I remember being engrossed by The Hobbit. How old were you when you first picked up that book?
Now, Jeff, you and I are going to show our age here, because I don't know what it was like in New Orleans or for you growing up in Louisville, Kentucky, where I grew up in Virginia. That was actually part of our curriculum in English class. So I learned all about The Hobbit when I was in the 5th and 6th grade.
Wow.
And so when you're reading that book, and it just kind of like progressed into junior
I read
high.
The Hobbit at Rummel here in town, and I think it was 8th grade. You know, so we're behind the times.
They were making me read Beowulf and stuff like that.
We read the Beowulf comic book at Rummel. It was literally like a comic book. That's Rummel for you.
You're getting to read The Hobbit, and I'm reading the Iliad and the Odyssey, trudging through that. Man, I went to the wrong school.
This is a serious nerd fest.
Yeah, I think listeners are driving away in droves right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, here's some Saints talk.
Let's go with the Saints. Herbie, let's just start off news of the day. We've talked about it a bunch of times already. Donnell Ellerbe off this team. Look, you started covering the team last year. You saw when he was on the field, he could make plays, but the storyline was always, was he or was he not going to play?
And you're absolutely correct. When he was on the field, obviously when he came back in Week 10, you're talking about 4 straight games with a sack. And when he's healthy, he's a difference maker. But that's the key thing. You can't help a team win games if you're watching from the sidelines. To his credit, because we had the opportunity to talk to him a couple of times in the locker room during that period when he was out to start the season. And Ellerbe was telling us, look, it's not like I'm getting hurt on purpose. This is just something that happens, and it's unfortunate. He just happens to be one of those players. As he got older, he just could not stay healthy. And unfortunately for the Saints, that's a huge chunk of a productive defensive player that you were not getting on the field, which is absolutely correct. On the field, he gives you production, as evidenced by that 4-game stretch with a sack in each game. But then obviously he missed time again towards the end of the year. But you can't have that if you're trying to turn around a team that has finished the year 7-9 in 3 straight seasons.
Herbie, how does his loss now affect the rest of the linebacker? Like, what do you think they're going to do at weak side linebacker? Do you think it's going to be just a wide open competition? Mike Nolan, obviously the new linebackers coach, has a lot of options there.
Yeah, absolutely correct. He has a lot of options, and you gentlemen know from going out there at OTAs, and minicamp, we couldn't really see what the Saints had in mind because there was such a rotation there. Manti Te'o obviously was not going full speed as well, so you've got a lot of moving pieces here. If the Saints want competition at the linebacker position, they're certainly going to get it. I think when you look at the group right now, A.J. Klein is probably a guy you can probably pencil in at middle linebacker. And then the weak side and strong side linebacker positions, who knows what's going to happen. But I will say this. When the pads come on Saturday is when we're really going to get a good look as to what the Saints have in mind. Because with defensive players, especially the linebacker position, when they're running around in shorts and without helmets, or excuse me, their helmets and without pads, it's kind of hard to gauge where defensive players are. But once the pads come on, now we're going to be able to see what they're all about. And I think the first few padded practices is when we'll get a good opportunity to see what Dennis Allen and Sean Payton have in mind for the linebacker core.
Herbie Teope covers New Orleans Saints for us, NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Join us right here on Dunc and Holder. You can follow him on Twitter at Herbie Teope, Teope. Herbie, you look at this team, and you were covering the Chiefs a year ago. I don't even think you were in town yet because you didn't come in until we were done covering them at the Greenbrier, and you joined us once training camp got here in Metairie. And you've seen this team for a year. Where do you think this team needs to improve and improve dramatically to even become a relevant playoff team, much less a contender in the NFC for a Super Bowl talk?
And that's a more than fair question, because obviously covering the Chiefs, I was actually in training camp in St. Joe, Missouri last year at this time when the job offer came from the glorious mothership, the Times-Picayune. But I will say this.
You get a raise.
Marcus, are you listening? When you look at this team, it's almost like an opposite of what I was used to covering in Kansas City, where you had a stout defense for the Chiefs, but the offense was lacking. Here, it's the complete opposite. You've got one of the top offenses in the National Football League, but you don't have that complementary defense. For me, it's kind of hard for me to fathom that Drew Brees only has one Super Bowl ring, and because this offense is built to win championships, but you have to have the complementary side of it. When I was in the AFC West, a lot of the teams are almost built identical. You've got the stout defenses, and you have a complementary offense. And then for the Saints to take that next step, you've got to fill in what's been hurting them the last 3 seasons, and that's on the defensive side of the football. I'm used to seeing 2 stud elite pass rushers, a solid linebacker core, and you have to have at least 1 or 2 shutdown cornerbacks. And right now, when you look at the Saints roster, you just don't have that.
Herbie, when practice starts Friday and then when they put the pads on, like you said, on Saturday, what are you going to be watching? What's going to stand out to you and draw your focus?
I'm going to interrupt. 2 words, John Fullington. That's Herbie's guy. Expect a 2,000-word essay on John Fullington.
But you know what? Since you're on Fullington, I will look at the offensive line because you've got some issues there. Teron Armstead expected out 4 to 6 months. You don't know exactly when Max Unger's going to come in. But so you've got some issues there on the left side of the offensive line. Is Ryan Ramczyk ready to take that spot there at the left tackle position and protect Drew Brees' blind side? Now, obviously, the offensive line is a critical piece of it, but since I just harped about defense, you've got to look at the defensive side. Who is the complementary pass rusher to Cam Jordan? Jordan had a guy on the other side who was capable of consistently getting 6 to 7 sacks a game. That's just going to... You can just unleash him. You can just unleash Cam Jordan if you had another guy over there. I want to see how this linebacker core shapes out, and I have to see the cornerback position. Last year, injuries decimated the cornerbacks. You can't start week 3 without the top 2 guys who were projected to be your guys in Delvin Breaux and P.J. Williams. Now you had to bring in Sterling Moore. You had to bring in B.W. Webb. And for the most part, the Saints survived with that. But now you've got Marshawn Lattimore here. You've got Delvin Breaux back healthy. You've got P.J. Williams healthy. That secondary has to step up in a pass-happy NFL.
Herbie, are there question marks that may be a little underrated, like, say, maybe Mark Ingram and Adrian Peterson? How do they coexist? And maybe offensively, Mike Thomas, number 1 receiver, is he capable of being that?
I think Michael Thomas, we'll tackle him first. I think he showed last year that he is more than capable of taking that number one role. Even with Brandon Cooks there, yes, Cooks' presence did open up things for Michael Thomas. But Thomas is a guy, when you look at the elite wide receivers in the National Football League, he certainly looks the part and he plays the part. He's got the size and he's got the production, and I think the Saints were comfortable enough, more than comfortable enough, with Thomas's role that you ship off Brandon Cooks because you've got your number one guy on the roster and you used the draft pick on him last year. When it goes to the running back position, I want to see how Adrian Peterson looks and progresses through training camp once the pads come on and once hitting is allowed. Yes, he looked fantastic out there in OTAs, but I'm very fond of saying the NFL does not have an all-OTA team for a reason, because once again, they're out there in shorts and helmets, and there's no hitting. Let's see what happens once hitting is allowed. Let's see what happens during preseason, because Peterson, at his age and coming off of a knee injury, with his history, we want to see where he is. Simply put, you want to see where he is. But if he can give at least 50% of what he used to be, my goodness, the Saints with Peterson, Mark Ingram, another 1,000-yard rusher, and then you toss in the rookie Alvin Kamara, this backfield has the potential to be one of the league's best.
At Herbie Teope on Twitter. Of course, you can follow all of his coverage of all things Saints at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Herbie, appreciate the time. Good debut for you, and keep your Frodo shirt at home when training camp starts. Just going to throw that out there.
Thank you very much for having me. And for the record, I heard the show yesterday. I am not a colonel. I'm not a general.
I was just promoting you throughout the ranks. What's the big deal?
You are in our mind, Herbie.
We'll see you guys out there.
All right, Herbie. Appreciate the time.
Hey, Herbie's got a live chat today at 1 o'clock, so if you're into the Saints and you want to be on NOLA.com, fire away. He knows the team up and down.
Absolutely. So let's take a quick break right here on Dunc and Holder. Rest of the show is pretty wide open for your interaction. Get your phone calls in, 504-260-1280. And you can also jump in our YouTube live stream. You can find that via NOLA.com. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
I'm drinking a bottle of Hennessy you got on your shelf, so just let me introduce myself. My name is Humpty.
Hey, it's Chris Gordy, and football season is upon us, and that means we've got tons to talk about, like how good can LSU be this year with Ed Orgeron taking over? Will Sean Payton and the Saints snap their 3-year playoff drought? We'll talk about it all on the Chris Gordy Show, weekday mornings 8 to 10 right here on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
If you need a payday loan fast, try LendUp.com. Apply in minutes on your phone or computer, and you could have cash in your account fast. LendUp.com, the better payday loan. LendUp.com, subject to availability in your state. LendUp is a licensed credit services organization, not a direct lender, in Ohio and Texas.
The worldwide phenomenon is back. Our 2017 iHeartRadio Music Festival, hosted by Ryan Seacrest. September 22nd and 23rd at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Over 20 of the greatest performers on the planet converge in Las Vegas for 2 nights. The iHeartRadio Music Festival Capital One cardholder presale is on. Cardholders, get access to tickets right now. Tickets on sale to the general public this Friday at 12 p.m. Go to iHeartRadio.com/Capital One before they sell out.
The IRS doesn't mess around. If they want your money, they'll take it. They can take your paycheck and bank accounts too, even threaten your home or business. And it's about to get worse. The IRS just hired an army of new tax enforcers. So, if you owe back taxes, the smartest thing you can do is call Optima Tax Relief. Optima has access to a special IRS tax assistance program called the Fresh Start Initiative. And their clients that qualify are saving thousands, even tens of thousands. One call starts the process to stop the demand letters, stop aggressive collection actions, and stop that army of new enforcers from targeting you. But don't delay. It's important to act now while you still have options. Optima is A-rated with the Better Business Bureau. Optima has already resolved over $500 million of tax debt for their clients. Get your life back. Call now for your free consultation.
Call 800-798-2477. That's 800-798-2477. 800-798-2477.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
When I grow up, I want to make a pizza with the most cheese and the most pepperoni at the nation's best price. $6. It's going to be the best pizza ever.
Sorry, kid. It's been done. Introducing the new Little Caesars Extra Most Bestest Pizza. A large pizza with the most cheese and the most pepperoni at the nation's best price.
But my mom said...
Shh! This much cheese and pepperoni is what dreams are made of. Come get a large hot and ready extra most bestest pizza for just $6 only at Little Caesars. Pizza. At participating locations plus tax.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Got a question on Twitter from our Dunc and Holder Twitter feed from Michael de Blasio. Had to do with Sean Payton and his coaching future. Is there a better option out there if you decide to make a change? Do you make a change or not make a change if there's someone not available that you feel like would be better than Sean Payton? First off, I've been on a couple of shows, you know, of course, leading up to training camp, doing Saints training camp previews. Sean Payton's coaching future comes up, 7-9 the past 3 seasons. Jeff, I'll just pose this to you. Do you feel like this is the real first time he's on a hot seat? And the other part of it is, if you don't feel like that there's a good candidate out there, do you make a change even if you're mediocre?
I don't really think he is on the hot seat. I'm kind of in the minority, I think, on that, just knowing the dynamics out at Saints camp. Now, if things fell apart this year and we had just a complete blow-up season, 3-13, of course, then I think we look at potentially a change in head coaches, but I think it would take something that drastic. I think he's that secure and has that much has engendered that much confidence from management, certainly from Mickey Loomis, that he would survive. I think speculating on anybody that would come in is, that's just idle conjecture. I do think they have an internal candidate if something were to come along, and that would be Dennis Allen, who's been an NFL head coach, is well-liked in the building, and certainly has the confidence of Mickey Loomis. So he would be a natural candidate in a transition. But I've said this before, and you and I have talked about it. I don't think Sean Payton will ever be fired by the Saints. I think there would be a mutual parting of the ways, something of that nature be couched that way, and he would potentially get another job, and the Saints wouldn't even have to pay him because he's going to be getting paid by another organization. You have to factor in that multi-year contract that he still has, very lucrative, one of the most lucrative deals in the league. He could sit on the sideline, sit over at the beach, in Florida on the Panhandle where his beach house is, and be earning $8 to $9 million a year for not coaching, and that is not the way Tom Benson operates.
I feel like the contract is the only saving grace if this team is average. It's his only saving grace, and yet you look at coaching history, and even if you win a Super Bowl, you still can't afford to have 3 losing seasons in a row and a 4th one. It doesn't matter to me. We've covered this team a long time, and you've mentioned it. I can't even tell you how many times how loyal, even to a fault, Tom Benson can be. All you got to do is look across the parking lot. Who would have thought Del Demps would still be there?
Exactly. That's the MO and how this organization operates, and they're different in that way. And you could make an argument that that's good or bad, I think. I can still distinctly remember having a conversation with a Saints executive in the 2008 season when the heat started to get turned up on Peyton. I was in the press box in Kansas City and had a conversation about the fan dissatisfaction with Sean Payton and the fact that they were going to stick with him, and giving me the reasons why they were going to stick with him. And the next year they won the Super Bowl. But there were people, and it's forgotten now because they won the Super Bowl, there were a lot of fans upset because they'd gone, I think, 7-9, and they were in the midst of kind of another mediocre season.
Yeah, they went 8-8 in 2008.
Mm-hmm. And people were upset and calling for his head. And I think there's still a feeling in the building of like, look, we stuck with him then. He's a good coach. Like the listener brought up, who could you get better than Sean Payton? I'm sure a lot of people think you can do better in 7-9, rightfully so. But I think the element in all of this that hasn't been brought up is, what does Gail Benson think of Sean Payton? Because she is becoming a much more influential figure on Airline Drive in that entire operation, and I'm not sure anybody knows because we really haven't heard from her on these kind of matters.
Do you think that the Saints would ever be comfortable in pushing Sean out and paying him to do nothing.
No, I mean, I think it would take a complete 2-14 type disaster.
Would it take like
Drew gets hurt, something like that?
Would it take like a Jim Haslett final year? Because look how loyal they actually were to him. He won one playoff game, and how many years of mediocre football until that real season, the Katrina season? Let's see. So, got to the playoffs in 2000. Never got above. Did they have a winning record after that? Were they maybe 9-7 one of those years?
Yes, they were 9-7 one year.
But it was
8-8,
7-9, and they stuck with him. Very loyal.
Very loyal. Yes, and I brought this up in my column today. I mean, the last 16 seasons, the Saints have been 7-9, 8-8, or 9-7 10 times. I mean, they're the definition of mediocrity in this Peyton, Breeze, pre-Haslett era. A large segment of the second half of the Benson era has been a 500 team.
Let's go to the phone lines. 504-260-1280. Jack in River Ridge. Thanks for calling, Dunc and Holder. What you got?
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Look, I don't think you can ever question Sean Payton as a coach. I think the questions that I had, watching the team were, until the last 2 years, which I think they've done a better job, the drafting was awful, the evaluations of free agents was awful, and they still have to do something about the medical staff. Those are the problems I have with the team. It's not. I would never question how he coaches, and they don't seem to develop defensive plays. But hopefully, with the changing of, people on the defensive staff, that'll improve.
Yeah, no, Jack, those are all valid criticisms and ones that I don't think Sean Payton has actually shied from. I mean, he's pretty much admitted on our show on Monday the failed player procurement, player acquisitions of the 2013-14 years. And look, a head rolled on that. That was Rick Riprish. They made a change, and they feel like now with Jeff Ireland in there, they're making better decisions on the, as far as free agency and in the NFL draft. And I think it's bearing out. We'll see. We still haven't seen a lot of production from these draft classes, but you have to like Mike Thomas, certainly, and we'll see how Marshawn Lattimore. But those are valid points, and those are more, I think, institutional questions than they are reflective of Sean Payton, even though he has huge say-so on all those matters in the football operations.
Well, and guys, I think they made the right decision with Ellaby. I realize, when he's on the field, he was probably their best linebacker, but like y'all been talking about, he's hardly ever on the field, so what's the point? You got all these guys that are trying for positions. Hopefully they'll find some guys. I really believe that of the remaining linebackers, if they can just get them to stay healthy, no matter who's out there, there'll be an improvement over what we've seen in the past few years. At least that's what I'm hoping for. But, guys, y'all have a good afternoon. Thank you.
All right, Jack,
Bye-bye.
appreciate it. I agree. Look, I think this linebacking core can be solid, and at this rate, if you're a Saints fan, you take solid.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
take it. Yeah.
They haven't really had that for a while, right? I mean, they haven't had – when's the last time they had a Pro Bowl linebacker? Was it Vilma?
Yeah, exactly.
He might be the only Pro Bowl linebacker in this era.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's a position that they've really never focused on either. They've kind of gotten into this habit of bringing in these veteran guys in free agency that are kind of stopgap players. They're solid, but there's no Pro Bowler in that bunch.
504-260-1280. You can get involved. AJ in River Ridge. You on Dunc and Holder. What you got?
Yeah, how you doing, guys?
Great.
I have two questions. Do you know if anybody picked up that lineman that played in the blonde side, the guy that got cut from Carolina? And do you know if that fullback that they picked up in free agency, if he has a chance to make the team? I can't remember his name right now. And who they have at tight end that we can depend on?
I appreciate the question and appreciate the call. Michael Orr is the tackle, and I don't think anyone's picked him up. I mean, I think he's dealing with concussions. I know we had Joe Person on who covered the Panthers. We had him on last week, and he was saying that he was flying to get checked out, and so I think he's still on the street.
Yeah, I think that situation would be on hold until he can get out of concussion protocol, but that's a very serious thing, and he's been dealing with it now for a long time. You got to think his career is in question at this point.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what fullback he's referring to. I
Yeah,
think John Kuhn is the guy at fullback. And then at tight end, I think that's an interesting race as we go to break here on Dunc and Holder because Josh Hill's coming back from injury. Michael Ho'omanawanui, say that 3 times fast.
Impressive.
Exactly. But John Phillips was on the team last year and was solid. Clay Harbor, as Jeff refers to, as a subdivision in Gretna. He's been on the team a little while this offseason and has looked solid. So I think that's an interesting race. But we'll come back on Dunc and Holder. We'll switch gears. Anthony Davis had a chat with the media, talked about Rajon Rondo and Drew Holiday. We'll go over his thoughts, and you can check out Will Guillory's story on NOLA.com and get ahead of the game. So come on back, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Well, together, everybody knows this is how the story goes.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by the T.J. Martell Foundation.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today, rain chance coming in less than 20%. Most of us dry, hazy sunshine with highs warming up to 93. Tonight, overnight lows in the mid to upper 70s under clear skies, and wrapping up the work week into your Thursday and Friday. Dry weather, rain chance near zero with highs though 94 to 96. It'll feel like 105 out there. The next rain chance comes in on Saturday with yet a cool front. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
Join the T.J. Martell Foundation in the fight against leukemia, cancer, and AIDS. Your support helps facilitate cutting-edge research that will lead to more effective treatments and save more lives. Visit tjmartell.org to learn more.
There are 2 things every parent wants when their child goes to college: for their child to do well and a way to afford it. Now, with Discover Student Loans, parents can have the best of both worlds. Not only do our loans cover up to 100% of school-certified costs with 0 fees, but we'll give them a cash reward for each new student loan if they earn at least a 3.0 GPA or equivalent. That means every A in history or B in math could help them earn a cash reward for good grades. Just one of the many ways we treat you like you'd treat you. Apply now in 15 minutes or less at discoverstudentloans.com. Limitations apply.
AutoZone presents the oil change. Regular oil changes protect your engine from wear and tear, helping your car roll well beyond the 100,000-mile mark. And right now, you can get 5 quarts of Valvoline conventional motor oil and an STP filter for just $23.99. So visit your local AutoZone. With over 5,000 locations, the right supplies and good advice are just around the corner. Let's get you what you need. See store for restrictions and details.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. When I say the word snacks, you probably think chips and cookies, you know, things that are considered unhealthy. But when I say snacks from Nature Box, I'm talking about over 80 delicious snacks made with simple ingredients, all under 200 calories per serving. Snacks like Asiago and cheddar cheese crisps and sriracha roasted cashews delivered straight to your door. Visit naturebox.com/radio, and for a limited time, get a free box with 4 snacks. That's a $19 value for free. Visit naturebox.com/radio for your free box with 4 snacks today.
All you have to do is wait a second, your hands on the clock.
This hot track is missing something ice cold. Nothing refreshes like an ice cold Pepsi. Pepsi. Crisp, smooth, refreshing, delicious. Grab a Pepsi today.
Just take your time. The clock is ticking, so stay. Raise every voice and let it be known.
Learn what our insiders know about your home teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Come in the name of the birth of and gold.
Jeff, how do you like Prince now?
I'm liking MJ more and more.
That is the god-awful Vikings fight song that Prince made back in the 2009 season. No wonder Favre threw the pick in the NFC title game. He was tired of hearing this crap.
It sounds like a Gregorian chant, not like a rally.
It sounds like someone skinning a cat alive.
Yeah, that's
what
brutal.
It sounds like.
That's way worse than what the Houston Oilers, what was it? Blue, Love You Blue. What was the great Houston Oilers?
I don't know.
You don't remember that? The Bum Phillips era? It was classic.
No, it might have been like 3 when he
I guarantee you can find that on the internet.
I'm sure.
Houston Oilers #1. Come on.
I just feel like it's like the San Diego Supercharger song. Now that song's fun every time they scored. But
That is a
now
good
they got to
song.
change it. That song's dead.
That's true.
It's over.
They might resurrect that, though.
Yeah, exactly. So a shout out to Clyde, our sports social media man at NOLA.com, for finding the song that tried to elude us. Good job. Thumbs up.
Nothing gets past us.
Take it to the top. Atta baby. Let's change gears here to the Pelicans. And Anthony Davis, of course, the primo #1 stud on the Pelicans. No offense, Boogie Cousins, but Anthony Davis is the guy. He spoke with reporters via conference call yesterday and basically said him and Boogie pitched and persuaded and pushed to get Rajon Rondo, knowing that since they secured Drew Holiday, it would move him to the 2 guard. Rondo can come in and be that surefire point guard, come in and really be a piece to the puzzle to kind of get this thing moving. Here's what Davis had to say. We've talked about moving Drew to the 2, and Rondo is definitely available for that spot. I thought it was a good situation. Me and, referring to Cousins, we're definitely campaigning for him and trying to get him down here to come play with us. We ended up getting him, and we're definitely excited about that, and we can bring him to our team. He's a great passer, great floor general at the point guard position. He knows how to get guys the ball, when to get the guys the ball, and when to make that pass. Jeff, when they made this move, and it was Alvin Gentry broke the news on our show last week that they were going to put Drew Holiday at the 2 guard. Rondo was going to come in and start at the point guard spot. I just don't think of Drew Holiday as your starting 2 guard. I just don't think of him as being that sharpshooter, that guy that look. Michael Jordan is a 2 guard. I think of it in that nature. Obviously, I'm not comparing him to that, but you think of him as a primo scorer. I don't know if I see Holiday that way.
I think this was born out of necessity, almost as a fallback option, because there weren't any top available free agent wing players that they could procure in free agency. So they went with the next best option, and that is to get Rondo to play the point and slide Drew Holiday over. But they still aren't answering their real need, and that is wing scoring, outside shooting, because we all know what's going to happen. Teams are going to force the Pelicans to hit those perimeter shots on the wing. They're going to double the big men, and it's going to force somebody to knock down open jumpers. And last year they struggled mightily after making that trade for Cousins because they traded away Buddy Hield and Langston Galloway, their top perimeter threats. And Alvin Gentry pretty much said on the show last week they're still in the market to try and find that guy. I just don't know what's out there and what's available. But Rajon Rondo was, I think, a perfect stopgap solution right now, but I don't see that as the long-term answer there, and I don't know how it's going to play out. I do think there's great potential, though, for this team defensively, as long as Rondo's dialed in and focused. He's got those long arms. He's very lanky. Him and Holiday could be a very dynamic defensive tandem at the guard position.
I'm reading from our colleague Will Guillory, historian, NOLA.com, basically saying Davis believes that taking away some of Holiday's playmaking responsibilities will give him the confidence to attack more consistently and become the perimeter scoring threat that the Pelicans desperately need. And here's Davis on that, giving Drew an opportunity to get off the ball. He was on the ball a lot last year. Now it gives him a chance to just go out there and focus on whatever he needs to focus on. He's tried to get guys involved and at the same time be aggressive. I know it's probably kind of tough when you're a scoring guard. It kind of relieves him of that pressure to have Rondo come in and kind of take over that point guard role so Drew can focus on being Drew and doing what he does best, and that's scoring the basketball. Is that what Drew does best?
No, that's not what he does best at all. I mean, he's a good all-around player. He gets into the lane, but that's not what he does best. And I'll tell you, the other curious move yesterday, which we haven't talked about, was the Pelicans cut Quinn Cook, who we all thought was going to be the backup point guard in this situation, the 3rd guard. Now, they've got some other options there. I mean, Jordan Crawford is listed as a point guard. He's really a shooting guard. Frank Jackson, the rookie from Duke, I'm not sure you want that guy to be your backup point guard. I mean, that's He hasn't got much experience. In a pinch, Etwan Moore can play there, but that was a very surprising move because Cook had played well for the Pelicans in Vegas at the Summer League, and it just came out of nowhere. I don't even know why they would cut him at this point and not bring him to camp. It rings similar to the move they made a couple of years ago when Seth Curry was on their Summer League, played very well, and the Pelicans had a chance to sign him, wouldn't guarantee his contract, and he ended up signing in Dallas and now is a contributing player on the Dallas Mavericks and could have been a Pelican, and he certainly could fill some of the outside shooting needs that they have right now.
Well, we talk about, and Jack and River Ridge referred to the injuries that this team has dealt with, and Jeffrey, I believe your intuition was correct as we go to break here on Dunc and Holder. The big announcement is that the Pelicans and Saints have a new name for their training facilities with partner Ochsner Hospital.
Yes.
Jeff, your spidey sense proved you correct.
Once again, I think it had to do with the fact that we were out there Monday in the media room and there was a huge Ochsner sign logo on the wall.
Spidey sense! Good job.
Incredible, intrepid reporting.
Exactly.
My instincts were rewarded.
Exactly. But lots going on over there today at the Saints facility. And I know we'll be in full force over there at NOLA.com. And training camp practice starts tomorrow. So we'll have all kinds of coverage of that. So one more segment here on Dunc and Holder. Josh Innes follows us from noon to 2. Jordy Holper from 2 to 4. Corey Johnson from 4 to 6. And this morning, and every morning, 8 to 10, Chris Gordy. Chris had Cam Jordan on the show. Feel free to go check that out at sports1280.com. Chris has been doing a great job getting a lot of great guests. Even if we have some overlap and they threaten to fight us, that's what I keep hearing. They want to brawl. They don't want any of us.
No part of us.
Our WrestleMania team, right?
Stay in your lane, Chris Gordy and company.
They can come in our lane. It's okay. Come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Welcome to the grind.
This one is gone.
The day in, day out. One series to the next.
100-mile-an-hour struck him out.
The Cakes take on the Fresno Grizzlies tonight at 9, only on Sports 1280. Your home for the New Orleans Baby Cakes.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. I trust J&J to protect my home and family.
J&J has protected Louisiana homes and businesses for over 50 years. We shield your home from termites, roaches, ants, mosquitoes, and other pests. J&J Exterminating is Louisiana's largest independently owned pest control company. We know what works in Louisiana's climate. Get the shield.
J&J Exterminating! Yeah.
Honda's having a summer party called the Honda Summerbration Sales Event, where there are great deals on the 2017 Accord. With an available 278 horsepower V6 engine with sport mode, it's perfect for long summer drives. Plus, it has adaptive cruise control, a system that helps you maintain a safe following distance even if the driver in front of you changes speed. But you better hurry to your local Honda dealer because, like summer, the Honda Summerbration Sales Event will not last long. Don't wait. Check out the Honda Summerbration Sales Event going on now.
We've all heard this.
I'm hungry.
When the snack attack, attacks, NatureBox has you covered. With delicious snacks you can feel good about. Delivered right to your door. Asiago and cheddar cheese crisps, whole wheat chocolate chip cookies, and over 80 more unique snacks. All under 200 calories per serving, so you can indulge too. Visit naturebox.com/radio, and for a limited time get a free box with 4 snacks. That's a $19 value for free. Visit naturebox.com/radio for your free box with 4 snacks today.
Are you a veteran looking for your next career? Hope Center is sponsoring a job fair for veterans. Participating employers will include the New Orleans Police and Sheriff's Departments, the VA Medical Center, Delta Personnel, Goodwill Industries, and many more. Come with your resume and be prepared to open the next chapter in your life. For dates and times, go to hopecenterla.org. A message from Fox Sports 1280 Communities, helping to make a difference in New Orleans.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving supports victims of drunk driving, drug driving, and underage drinking at no charge. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org. That's MADD.org.
Dunc and Holder now. Josh Innes next at noon on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
We are the Bears, shuffling crew, shutting on down, doing it for you. We're so bad, we know we're good, blowing your mind like we knew we would.
Way better than Prince, Jeff.
No question. I think it runs neck and neck, though, with Love You Blue. I'm telling you.
I need to hear this. Maybe I've heard it at some point in life. I don't know.
You definitely have heard it.
Probably so.
Just getting old, forgetful.
I know. Exactly. Craziness going on.
That's pretty good,
in my 37-year-old brain.
That's pretty good stuff.
Well, yeah. Super Bowl Shuffle here in New Orleans. One of the best single seasons in NFL history was that Chicago Bears, that 85 season.
And that video was priceless, too.
Oh, of course.
Classic 80s video, back when music videos were big, popular.
When they didn't kill the radio star.
Yes.
Exactly. See what I did there? Dude, I'm so sly.
I'm seeing crafty.
Yeah, I'm seeing pictures on Twitter from peers who are at Texans training camp at the Greenbrier.
Oh.
Jeff, do you miss those days or what?
Yes, longingly waking up wearing a sweatshirt or putting on a sweatshirt and a fleece to go out to practice. I loved West Virginia. I'm probably the most devastated person other than Sean Payton that we're not there. I have no, standing out in 100-degree heat index in Metairie, as much as I love Louisiana and love our great town, the greatest city on the planet, I would like to be in West Virginia.
You know my answer.
I know yours.
I don't miss it. I
I think I'm in the minority. I think most people are like you.
Well,
in our group especially.
Well, we're talking, media, we go up there, we covered all this stuff. Look, if you got a wife and kids and you're gone for a month, that's tough.
Well, here's my point, though, and we're going to see it. I'm telling you, the over-under on when Sean Payton gets exasperated with the rain coming in. We get these thunderstorms that come out of nowhere, and they're forced to move indoors and change the practice script because they're limited in what they can do in that indoor facility. He's gonna be exasperated. We can see it coming because that really hardly ever happened in West Virginia. We hardly ever had any major rain, and when we did have rain, they kind of practiced right through it. It wasn't really these tropical storms that we get here where you got to take cover. It was actually refreshing to some degree up there. I can tell you, Sean Payton he's gonna have a burr in his saddle that day, and it's gonna come soon.
And I think in the forecast coming up, the first open practice is Saturday for the fans. Of course, they start practicing tomorrow. They'll have a practice tomorrow and Friday. That will be closed to fans. And as far as media coverage of those two practices, you won't have any live updates during practice. Whenever it's closed to the public, us as the media, it's their bylaws, guidelines, and we abide by them. And you can't report anything till practice is over. So you'll have, say, on our show, we're 10 to noon, and if practice ends, that's when you can start hearing, and we'll be on the air, of course, and we'll be basically looking on Twitter from our colleagues. If they're reporting stuff, that's when we'll be able to talk about what happened in practice. Just a heads up.
Yeah, there's a lot of limitations to what we can and can't say, but we will have it all. We'll be 24/7 coverage here. You'll find it at NOLA.com. We're going to have an army of people out there, so whether Larry and I are out at practice or our colleagues, we'll have all of them on, and we'll rehash it in depth. And look, I'm looking forward to it. I think, like I wrote today, it's going to be one of the more compelling camps in the Peyton Breeze era, just because there's so many unknowns, so many injury questions, so many position battles. I can't remember this many position battles that are wide open right now.
I think you could look at every position group. I think you could look at every player on this roster and have some sort of question, uncertainty. I don't think that's hyperbole. I think you could go down the offensive line, down the defensive line, through the linebacking core, secondary, wide receiver, running back, even quarterback. I think the only questions that we don't have, and we brought it up yesterday, is at punter and kicker.
Well, do you have a question at quarterback? What do you mean?
Just that, is this Drew Brees' last hurrah?
Okay.
That's and do I think there's going to be a drop-off with Drew? No, I don't. I've written that. At some point, yes, he's going to be 60 years old and can't play anymore. But can he play this year? Yes. Can he play next year? I think there's no question. That in my mind, his ability to play the position, I have zero questions about that. None.
And their most celebrated free agent acquisition, arguably, is Adrian Peterson. He's got a question mark to his name. And then their 2 first-round draft picks, Ryan Ramczyk and Marshawn Lattimore, both with injury histories, along with Alex Anzalone, another injury history in the draft. So they've got so many players with these injury question marks. And I personally am going to be interested to see how Lattimore makes it through these practices in this incredible heat with his history of hamstring problems. I mean, these chronic issues that a lot of teams downgraded him to like a second-round pick because of.
They're going to need to strap an IV to him and he's got to run around holding a bag the whole time, an IV bag. Keep him hydrated.
They should have done that with Chris Ivory because he was constantly dealing with his hamstrings here in this heat, and it's an issue because all those soft tissue problems that you have because of dehydration occur down here in Louisiana. I mean, it's just unforgiving. But the one thing I would say about the rain, we tend to avoid that here in the mornings, and they're going early, 8:50, I think, to try and get around that. But one of the reasons why they wanted everybody's registration for tickets was also to be able to contact fans when they sense through the weather radar that they're going to have some problems with rain. They'll be able to contact you directly via email or maybe even by text. So I think that's a good thing. It's a good customer service.
Yeah, on tomorrow's show and throughout the next few weeks of training camp, you'll hear what Sean Payton has to say. You'll hear what Mickey Loomis has to say. We'll kind of dissect what their thoughts are. Even though we had them on the show already, they may have new thoughts. So we'll play that tomorrow on the show. Also, ProFootballTalk.com's Mike Florio is going to jump on the show tomorrow, and we haven't talked a whole ton about LSU football. I'm just going to tease that might change on Friday. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Oh, a nice tease. I like that.
Tease.
Ooh, intrigue.
I know. I wonder who we might talk to.
Yeah, I wonder.
Maybe it's Dandy Don. I don't know.
I think it's going to be bigger than that. No disrespect to Dandy Don.
I've never met Dandy Don. Is he real?
Yes. Yeah. He's very real, as Clyde would know.
He's very real. He's a very nice man.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, we need to visit on LSU for sure. Yeah, and we will.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to lay that out as a teaser. Friday, I bet you we'll have some LSU talk. Want to thank Pete Thamel, Yahoo Sports. Want to thank Albert Breer, the MMQB.com. Want to thank Herbie Teope, Mr. Frodo, joining the show. And appreciate all the interaction from the phone calls, Twitter, and apparently the YouTube Live chat stream was pretty lively today. So, again, we'll be back on the air tomorrow, 10 a.m. to noon. After us, Josh Innes, then Jordy Holtberg, then Corey Johnson. So, for Jeff Duncan, for Dave, our man in the studio, behind the glass, for our man Clyde getting involved in social media, and, of course, I'm Larry Holder. And we'll be back here tomorrow, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. We're Duncan Holder.
Do you have persistent knee pain?